Fighting human trafficking is all about the power of education. It's one of the messages right now during January's Human Trafficking Prevention Month and Awareness Day coming up next week.
The Missoula Human Trafficking Task Force and Seroptimus International of Whitefish had an event at the University of Montana earlier today to shed some light on the issue. Jack Ginsburg takes us to one of these training sessions.
On Wednesday afternoon, Seattle-based human trafficking expert Peter Qualiotin came to the University of Montana as part of his statewide tour, educating professionals and the public on preventative measures to take in order to end human trafficking.
And so really thinking about the power of education and saying like, hey, we want to have an event for professionals, right? And then also an event for community members where they can learn a little bit more about the root causes of trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation.
The training was split into two separate sessions, a 4-hour one for law enforcement, medical, and social service professionals, while the other one later in the night was an open Q&A for the public.
There's a lot that we can do in terms of changing the way that we understand the issue. Get educated, find out about sex trafficking and other forms of commercial sexual exploitation, what the roots are, what we can do to prevent it moving forward.
The training's focused on commercial sexual exploitations, or CSE, a practice of gender-based violence. One of the main reasons in bringing in Qualiotin was his success in focusing on holding the buyers and pimps accountable, rather than the women who are being used for exploitation.
And so we need to engage men, because it's predominantly men who buy sex, and be able to get them to understand the harm of this practice and how it's hidden from their awareness. Because I think part of the nature of this victimization is there's a silencing aspect to it. And like other forms of gender-based violence, there's a blaming of the victim that happens, a holding her to account rather than looking at the buyer's behaviors. And so that simple twist, that kind of change of who we're looking at and where the problem lies, because certainly the problem is experienced by people in prostitution are significant, but they would be non-existent if it weren't for the buyers.
While there is still a ton of work to be done, Qualiotin knows we are headed in the right direction and says this is much more progress than he ever could have imagined.
It was only people who were in prostitution that were arrested. Nobody looked at the buyers, nobody looked at the pimps. They were held responsible for the harm that was happening to them. And we have here today law enforcement, service providers, or educators, folks from the health profession who are coming together to try and recognize what we can all do working together to approach this issue in a new way. And that is something I could have never seen coming 30 years ago.
In Missoula, Jack Ginsburg, MTN News.